All right, guys, let's review adding and subtracting when I have tenths and hundredths in my numbers I'm adding or subtracting. So in my first one, I'm looking at 36.2 plus 13.67. I'm not gonna have any carrying to do there. So I'm just going to use the count forward strategy. So 30 and 10 is 40. 6 and 3 is 9. 2 tenths and 6 tenths is 8 tenths. And nothing in this hundredths place plus 7 hundredths is 49.87. For B, I see the same thing happening. I'm not gonna have any kind of carrying to do here. So I'm just going to use the count forward. So 50 and 30 is 80. 1 plus 4 is 5. Put my decimal in. 3 tenths and 5 tenths is 8 tenths. And 6 hundredths and no hundredths is 6 hundredths. I'm gonna have a little bit of carrying to do with this question C, because I can see 6 tenths and 5 tenths here, and I also see 7 and 8. So I'm gonna stack that one and say 47.6 plus 28.52. I'm gonna put a 0 here in that hundredths that it doesn't have anything in it at this point. Now if I add, I have 2, 11, carrying the 1, 8 and 8 is 16, carry the 1, 5 and 2 is 7, 76.12. I'm gonna have more carrying to do with this one, so I'm gonna, once again, put them on, 54.9, and there should be a 0, since it doesn't show it there, and I have 6, 16, put my decimal in, 9 and 4 is 13, and 4 and 5 is 9, so 93.66. My last one, there's gonna be more carrying here. I see a 7 and a 4 in the tenths place and a 6 and a 9 in the ones place. So I'm gonna put that 0 in now to make sure that they're lined up. 4, 2 in this one. So if I add those, I have 2, 11, carry the 1, 7, 9, 16, and 5 and 3 is 8. So 86.12. When I'm subtracting, I can use my count back strategy in F, because there's gonna be no borrowing to do. So I know that 60 minus 40 is 20, 3 minus 2 is 1, 8 tenths minus 5 tenths is 3 tenths, and 7 hundredths minus no hundredths is 7 hundredths. I can do that again. Oh no, I can't do that here, because remember, this is an imaginary 0 in the hundredths place. I'm gonna have a 0 minus 8 there. So I'm gonna stack it to make it easier for me to figure out. So 3, 8. So I know my answer is gonna be about 63 or so when I'm done. Let's take a look at it here. So I'm gonna take 1 from the tenths and make it 10 hundredths. Now I have 10 minus 8, which is 2, 5 tenths minus 3 tenths, which is also 2, 4 minus 1 is 3, and 80 minus 20 is 60. So I've got 63.22. This one here, it looks like I'm gonna have more borrowing to do, because I have 3 tenths minus 7 tenths. So I'm gonna, once again, stack that. 1.7. I'm gonna put a 0 in here just to, as a place filler in the hundredths place. 9 minus 0 is 9. 3 minus 7 I can't do, so I'm gonna have to borrow using this strategy anyway. 13 minus 7 is 6. Put my decimal in. 1 minus 1 is 0. And 40 minus 30 is 10. 10.69. I'm gonna have more borrowing to do here in 62.4. I'm gonna put a 0 here because I don't have anything in that hundredths place right now. And just to make it easier for myself to see what I have when I'm done. My answer is gonna be about 35, I think, when I'm done. Just looking at the 62 minus 27 part. Now I have a 0 here, so I'm going to borrow. This can become a 3, and this will become a 10, right? 3 tenths over, or sorry, 1 tenth over to the hundredths place will give us 10 tenths. 10 hundredths, I'm sorry, 10 hundredths. So now we have 10 minus 4 is 6. 3/10 minus 1/10 is 2/10. Now I have 2 minus 7 here, so I'm going to borrow and make it 50 and 12 instead of 60 and 2. 12 minus 7 is 5, and 50 minus 20 is 30, so I have 35.26. Last question has a little bit of a tricky bit of borrowing. 32.7. I'm going to put a 0 here just to make sure I have something in the hundredths. I have 5 minus 0. Oh, by the way, my answer is going to be 50, probably about 49 when I'm done is going to be my guess, because 80 minus 30 is 50, but there's a bit of borrowing to go on here. So I'm going to say about 48, 47, something in that area. All right, now I have 0 minus 7 here, so I'm going to have to borrow. But remember, if I borrow from this 0, I have nothing to give. So let's start off with this tens place here. I'm going to make that 70 and move 110 over to the ones place. That's going to leave us with 10 there. Then I'm going to take one of those ones, it's going to become 9, and move it over to the tenths place. What I have now is 10 tenths, which is 1. Now I have 10 minus 7 in the tenths place, which is 3. 9 minus 2 in the ones, that's 7. And 70 minus 30 is 40. 47.35. All right, guys, check your answers there and keep on practicing these kinds of questions.